Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome to Vintage Revival Design Co. My name is Michelle Adamas, and I am so happy to be here with you for our first studio sessions at 2. I'll be live or pre-recorded every Tuesday at 2, and I invite you to join me. So today we are going to begin a series on jelly plate printing. And jelly plate printing is one of the best ways I know to break through a creative block. It is a mixed media technique that's been around forever. It invites you to create with no expectations for perfection because there's just no way that you're going to get the same print. You need so little to really get started. And as we go through this together, we're going to explore different techniques, but today we're just going to explore the basics. So I'm going to pull up my project table here, and I want to talk to you about the supplies. To get started, all you really need is a jelly plate. And I'm working with a 5x7 today, but you can use any size. I have some paper. This is plain copy paper. This is the paper that I'm going to be printing with. Now, there are a variety of papers that we will explore together, but to get started, that's what this is all about. So just plain copy paper is terrific. And then you're going to need paint. A variety of paints will work on a jelly plate, but the most common is acrylic paint. And so I'm going to be using a green gold. I have a Blick matte acrylic in yellow orange deep, and I'm going to be using another Blick matte acrylic in a green blue deep. So those are my paints. You're going to need a brayer. You're going to need something to roll your brayer off with so you don't build up so much paint. And then you are going to explore like a mark making. So today we're going to be working with circles, and we're going to be talking more about mark making as we go further in the series. But today we're just going to be working with this little wood candle cup that I have. I chose it because I have a solid circle with some little indents that make some fun marks. And then I have an open circle here. I also have a little, this had tape on it, and I saved the roll. It's super sturdy. You can see that I've used it before. And that's really all we need. And so one of the recommendations that I have when you are just starting out with jelly plate printing is to start with a limited color palette. And especially if it's something that you're going to want to collage with later, one of the benefits of creating with a limited color palette is that then when you're done printing and you've created all of these beautiful prints, you have a cohesive set that will all work together no matter what you've printed them on, because they're all using the same colors. So even though it's tempting to go through all the colors, I know I did when I first started doing this, my suggestion really is to use a limited color palette. So we're only going to use these 3 colors, a brayer and some paper, and we're going to do some basic prints. So let's just get started with a little bit. So I have my jelly plate on here. I'm working on a glass mat. I do this because the jelly print sticks to it really easily. I'm not going to have any shifting or anything like that. I have another piece of coffee paper over here, and I went ahead and cut some of these. I think they're 8.5 by 7. I think is what I cut them to. So you can cut them to be the size of your jelly plate or larger if you want. It really doesn't matter. And so I'm going to start with, we're just going to get some paint on our jelly plate. So let's give this a go. I'm going to start with this green blue deep, and I'm going to put just a few little drops on my plate. There is a fine line between too much paint and not enough paint, and you will get to know that as you play and experiment with your jelly plate. So I'm using my brayer, and I'm going to cover the entire plate with my paint. And you really want to make sure that your plate is clean and you don't have anything in it, and you can just kind of go like this. If your brayer is leaving marks, then you can just kind of come in here with it like this and just get a smooth amount of paint, and then you're going to roll off on that. And don't throw away this, because this makes a nice ghost print. We'll print with that a little bit later. So the first thing I'm going to do is just, it's this easy. I'm going to lay my paper down on my plate, and I'm going to use my hands to do this. You could use a clean brayer for this part if you would like, or something else, but my hands work just fine. Acrylic paint dries very quickly, so you shouldn't have to wait too long. If you're working with a more translucent color, it may take a little bit longer. And so we've done that, and then when we lift up, we get this. No two prints are going to be the same. So I'm going to set this one here to dry, and even though I have these little splotches here, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this gold, and I'm going to put some green and let those blend together. And this is all it is. So I'm just going to do a few dots. These colors are going to mix and create some really interesting shades. And I'm going right over that blue, so I'll have a little bit of a blue splotch. The yellow and green are mixing in together. And then I'm going to go right over this like this. And then I can, let's use our little, this is a mark making tool. So again, this is just a little spool from a tape roll that I used, and I'm going to put that into that, and then I'm going to kind of tap off that paint onto a paper towel so that it doesn't gunk up. And I'm going to just do some little circles in here. And so this is going to create something else. So I'm going to lay my paper down just like this on my plate. Use my hands again and smooth this down. And then we'll get a different shade with this. So I'm going to pull this up. And now what's showing through the circles is the blue that we put underneath it. So I'm going to set this aside, and there's more that we can do with these. Let's talk about if you are wanting to get a precise placement on your plate. You can see on this one that it wasn't completely lined up, but I do have a little trick for that. And that is to put a little piece of tape near your plate. This is just painter's tape. And then on the piece of paper, on the back of the piece of paper, you're going to put another piece of tape. Not the print side, but the side that you're not printing on. And then what you'll do is you'll just kind of line them up each time you print. So let's give that a try. This time I'm going to use just the, I think we're just going to do some blue dots. And so I'm going to put a little paint on here. I'm going to roll this out on here, and I'm going to go ahead and dip this in and put my circles on this way. So we're doing it a little bit backwards. Just like that. And so these, instead of having the color show through underneath, this is going to be the color that's on top. So we do want to think about what we want to show through and what we want to be underneath. And so I'm going to take this one, this little thing, and I'm just going to poke a few little marks in here just to give it a little distressing, like that. And so in the next session, we will be talking about papers. So next week, we'll be talking about the various papers that you can use and the effects that you can get. And we'll get into some more mark making. So you really don't need a lot of supplies to do this. And so I could take this, I'm going to line it up here. I could take this just like this. And then I can lift up and I have these circles, but that's really kind of boring. And so what I can do next is I'll put a little bit of this green on here. And I want to roll off, make sure my brayer doesn't have a bunch of blue paint on it. So you want to do that. And then I'm going to go right over my blue circles, just like this. And I've got some where it's lifting, and that's going to give me a little bit of distressing. And so I'm going to take this and then I'm going to kind of line it up with my tape again and lay that down and press. So you can do your mark making on your Gelli plate before you do that. Hello, Lourdes, how are you? If you have any questions, please write them in the comments, and when we're done making this next print or the last print, I will answer any questions that you may have. So now I'm going to lift this up and we're going to do that. So if it's not a perfect print for you, it really doesn't matter because we can always add more layers. Gel plate printing is really about layer, layer, and layer. And it's really a fun thing to do. So I'm going to set this one aside and let that dry. And now I even have this, but let's talk about cleaning up your gel plate. If I want to make sure I can, as long as my paint's not too dry, I can just use a baby wipe and clean this up. And then when I'm done, I want to make sure that I clean my brayer really well, and that I also want to clean up my gel plate. And so this is just one way that you can do this while you're in the process of making your prints. Okay, so I'm just going to blot this with a paper towel a little bit and get up any dampness. And now the next one that we want to do, I think this is fairly dry. And so let's say that we wanted to make some other circles. And so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this gold down, and I'm going to brayer that out a little bit so I can dip into it. And now I'll take my circle and I'll add even some more in here. So I've got a little bit of that blue paint showing through. I think that's kind of fun. So my mark is going to pick up different colors, and I can just kind of come in here and do even more. So now I can take this same gel print that we've done and I can line it up again with my tape, get an idea of where I'm at. I can lay that down, press, and then I can lift and we've just added another layer. So this is a way to do it. And then for this one, I may just want to roll a little bit of my gold paint in places and do a little bit like that for distressing. And I'm only using the 3 colors that we started with, and I'm just going to distress this a little bit. So I've done this, and I'm going to lay this down on my plate. So your prints, even if they don't turn out exactly as you would like them to, it is no problem. You can always add to them. And we will be making lots of gel prints using these 3 colors and exploring mark making and different texture techniques that you can use. So here I've taken that and I just have a little more distressing on this. And so that is a basic print. It's really about squeezing a small amount of paint onto your gel plate and then creating from there and just layering and layering and layering. And so again, in wrapping up on this one, this is the basics. All you need is a gel plate, a few colors of paint, a brayer, and some copy paper. So I hope you will join me in this series and meet up with me again next Tuesday. Again, we'll have studio sessions every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And we are starting with this gel printing series. So next week, we'll be talking about the different papers that we can use that are really fun to print on and some different texture and mark making techniques. Start looking around your home for things that you might be able to make marks with, like an empty tape roller, or even a bathroom tissue roll works, a jar lid, a small bowl, a plastic fork in your drawer. Start looking at things as what kind of marks they would make. So this is quick, and I just want to be really concise and get to the point even when I'm live. So let me stop and see if anybody has any questions. Lourdes, do you have any questions? And thank you so much for being here. I am going to hope that this helped you get an idea of what you need. The gel plates are available in all sizes. You can find them on Amazon. I don't have a supply list listed for today, but you can go on Amazon and find acrylic paint, or go to your favorite craft store, maybe a Michael's or something like that, and you should be able to find a jelly plate and acrylic paints. They don't have to be anything expensive. The student grade works really well. You can use the little craft, the craft bottles of paint that are so readily available. No problem. So here's what we created today, just doing a little bit of layering. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you at 2 o'clock next Tuesday. Thanks so much.